Evening and welcome to the 618th episode of Travel Itch. I'm Dan Schlossberg, and we are in the 14th season of Travel Itch Radio, the show that lets you enjoy the pleasure of travel from the comfort of your armchair. Every week at this time, we talk to people representing destinations, hotels, airlines, railroads, car rental companies, and others in the world of travel and hospitality, from authors and bloggers to broadcasters and publicists. If it's got anything to do with travel, it's got everything to do with Travel Itch. Our guest today is Lisa Petrie, Senior Manager of Public Relations for the Presidio Trust in San Francisco. Thank you for joining Travel Itch, Lisa.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's great to have you here. Lisa, is it accurate to say the Presidio Trust is a federal government corporation that manages the Presidio, a national park site within the Golden Gate National Recreation Area?
That is true. There are three agencies that work together to manage this park, and it's the Presidio Trust that manages the historic buildings and landscapes. The National Park Service manages the coastal areas along the Pacific and the Bay, and the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy is a fundraising arm that helps us with funding for the park.
Okay, and the Presidio was established as a fort in 1776 by New Spain, the same year that the USA was established 250 years ago?
That's true. The Presidio, just to set it back a little bit, just to tell folks what the Presidio is, it is 1,491 acres at the tip of the San Francisco Peninsula, right by the Golden Gate Bridge. And this is the largest urban national park in the country. So it's bigger than Central Park in New York. It's bigger than Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. And as you see, it's got views everywhere of the Golden Gate Bridge, Alcatraz, the Bay, Marin, and the city skyline. So the history, the native Ohlone people lived in the area for 2,000 years before the Spanish came. And so that was Ohlone territory. And then in 1776, the Anza Party came up from Tubac, Arizona, along the trail, Anza Trail, and ended up founding El Presidio, which means the fort, and founded the Mission Dolores in further away, and that was their mission. So originally it was a Spanish fort, and then the Mexican army took over when they won the war from Spain, and that was in 1822. And then the U.S. Army had taken over the Presidio in 1846. So it was a long-running U.S. Army base all the way through World War I and World War II. And then in 1994, as part of the Base Closures Acts, it was decommissioned. It was no longer needed. So at that point, it was handed over to the National Park Service. That was in 1994. It was handed over to the National Park Service. But within a year, it was really clear that what we had here was over 600 historic buildings, which were placed on the National Registry, National Historic District Registry. The National Park Service just didn't have the funding or the mission to take care of this place. So that's when they founded the Presidio Trust in 1996. So, and then initially the trust got some federal appropriations to fix up some of these old historic buildings, be able to rent them, put them back into service and rent them as commercial businesses or as residences. And that was generating the revenue that the park would need to become self-sufficient. So that happened in 2013. And that means that we haven't had any annual ongoing federal appropriations. We've had to pay our own way and generate our own income to keep the park open and free to everyone. So, you can imagine it's only been 31 years that the Presidio has become a visitor destination. And it's undergone this amazing transformation from U.S. Army post to public park visitor destination with all kinds of things to do in just 31 years.
And here's one of the places people can stay. This is the lodge at the Presidio. Beautiful place.
Yes, we were really excited to start our hospitality program with the Inn at the Presidio. This is the second hotel, the Lodge at the Presidio, which was opened in 2018. So, when you go to a national park, a lot of times you think lodges, right? You want a place to stay in a national park. So we were able to restore two historic buildings. They're both in the boutique. They're both boutique historic hotels in Historic Hotels of America, and they together they'll serve only maybe 62 rooms. In addition, we have a smaller space, but it really brought the park alive because that means that visitors from far away, not just locals, could come and stay with us. You know, both of them are dog friendly. So you see a lot of people that come to walk their dogs in the park and stay at the hotels. Both of them have amazing outdoor fire pits. The Lodge at the Presidio is the closest hotel to the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, on the San Francisco side. Both of them have a wonderful European style breakfast in the morning, and they offer wine and cheese hour every night at 5 o'clock to relax. And it's just a wonderful place to either hide away from the busyness of downtown and yet still be very close, or it's a nice place to just stay all weekend in the park and enjoy experiences with your family.
Well, I love this idea, sitting in these chairs and watching the bridge and the water and the sailboats. Just fabulous.
That's a great picture of the Presidio tunnel tops. And the Presidio tunnel tops happens to be the latest sort of attraction that we've opened. And that was opened 3 years ago and has since welcomed 4.5 million visits since opening 3 years ago. What these gentlemen are doing is sitting on one of the three overlooks. And what the Presidio Tunnel Tops is it's land that's been reclaimed from derelict infrastructure to become a park, just like in New York City with the High Line. And it was designed by the same designers who designed the High Line in New York City field operations. What happened was in San Francisco, many people probably know that there were several raised highways that ran around the city. So the Doyle Drive happened to be a highway that ran from all across the northern waterfront and to the Golden Gate Bridge. But it was a raised up highway and it was deemed earthquake unsafe and it really needed to be redone. So at that point, the several architecture and designers came up with the amazing idea of putting this highway down into cut and covered tunnels so that you would get two sets of tunnels. And then on top of that, you could reclaim your 14 acres of land and create a park on the top of some tunnels. So that was just a brilliant idea. And after much highway construction with many partners, many highway, Federal Highway and Caltrans and many partners that built that Presidio Parkway, we were left with two sets of tunnels. One of them has a park over it called the Battery Bluff. And that one brings alive the historic gun batteries that were long, long hidden from any view of citizens and non-military. Nobody had seen these bunkers and batteries for years. So we had cleaned those up and restored those and created trails and picnic tables and grasslands and gardens for people to enjoy those. And then with the Presidio Tunnel Tops, it's a much broader story because it was a $106 million project that required a lot of philanthropic funding. So we were very blessed to raise that money with the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy and very generous private donors who then created all kinds of visitor amenities at this Presidio Tunnel Top site. And that opened again 3 years ago, like we said. But just to tell you a little bit about some of the major sections there, you see the overlooks where those people were sitting. And those are opening up views of the Bay Area that nobody had ever seen before, because there was a raised highway right there. And instead now these gentlemen are sitting basically on top of the highway tunnels in a park. As you can see right down there, you can barely see some wooden structures there over the guy's feet. And that is called the Outpost Playground. So the Outpost Playground is a nature play area designed for urban kids to get close to nature, natural elements, wood and stone and water, feel really comfortable playing in nature and getting that experience of just being in the outdoors, moving their bodies, exploring the ecology of the park. And so we're really proud and happy of that 2-acre playground that's all made out of wood and stone and those kind of things, and a building area. And then down there's also a field station. So the field station is kind of a creative discovery lab where anybody, any age, can come in and experience their senses. They can experience the taste of tea brewed with herbs from the Presidio, or they can experience petting a coyote pelt from a coyote who used to live in the Presidio, or they can draw pictures of what they see, the rocks, and they can experience maps and just all kinds of elements that will teach them a little bit about where they are and encourage them to be interested in nature. So those are the two huge areas. I could go on and on. Up at top, we have a lot of picnic areas, a glass pavilion where people can get in and out of the elements. There's even a campfire circle, again, that national park experience. A campfire circle where some of the rangers give talks daily. And we also have a cafe called Il Parco, which is a grab and go cafe there. Soon there will be another cafe opening on the site. We wouldn't be anywhere if it weren't for transit. So we do have a transit center right up at the site by the visitor center. And that's something we work really hard at the Presidio, is providing access for everyone to get to the park, whether they drive or whether they come in by a city bus, or whether they take one of our free shuttle buses called Presidio Go, or whether they ride in on a bike share, lift bike, or they can come in on scooters. Everyone can get to the park and enjoy that.
Lisa, by the numbers, the Presidio Trust maintains 34 miles of roads, 53 miles of sidewalks and trails, and 1,500 acres of landscapes, forests, and native plants, not to mention hundreds of historic buildings, as you mentioned, that honor the nation's heritage and all kinds of stuff. There's electrical, wastewater, drinking water, telecom infrastructure of the whole area. So isn't the Presidio really a city within a city?
Not sure if I lost you there, Dan.
Okay, and we have to ask you about Starfleet Academy, because Starfleet Academy, Star Trek. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. So wasn't the Presidio the backdrop for Starfleet Academy?
I think it was, yes. We don't have any commemorative plaques about Star Trek, but we do have plenty of other commemorative plaques about military history. And that's a reason why people come to check out the history of what came to pass here. It's a very significant historic site for the military. I think you were getting at all of the infrastructure and roads and all of this before. I think you cut out a little bit there, that we have to maintain. So just it's definitely a challenge of managing the park, because we are a small city within a city. So we really have to make sure that we earn enough revenue to pay these bills, that we can pave all the roads, and that we can upgrade the electrical systems that were left by the Army from the 1950s. And that's just something that we have inherited and that we're working hard at making sure we're building into the next century for everybody to enjoy this place forever.
Wasn't the Presidio also one of the most biologically diverse parks in the United States.
Yes, I'm glad you asked about that because part of our mission is a stewardship mission, which is to make sure that the open landscapes and the open spaces that create habitat for plants and animals can thrive. And in many cases, we've had to bring those back from Army landfills and dumps. We've had to restore them and then replant either native plants. If that's in the plan, we have native plant zones. We also have ornamental plant zones. But the whole point there is that many animals and plants can thrive in these areas. And, because the base was protected for all those years and was not developed, that's another reason why these lands have remained untouched. And that's why you can find a few things that you can't find anywhere else. There's a little plant called the San Francisco Lysindja, and that is a small plant that is rare and endangered, and it's found in the Presidio. There are some species of butterflies and frogs and newts that we have attempted to bring back. We've reintroduced these kind of species once we knew that the habitat was correct for them. We were able to try to bring back some of these species to the park. So, for us, it's a twofold benefit. One is that it really benefits the environment everywhere. It really makes, for a resilient environment when you have a lot of different species. But it also creates a visitor experience that's amazing. I mean, if you want to walk around one of the natural lakes in the Presidio, you might see the western pond turtles, you might see the blue herons, you might see some of the silver digger bees that that have just spontaneously returned when their dune habitat was restored. So the visitors get to get up close and personal with nature, and the whole environment gets to be thriving and resilient just in case of changes. When one organism can't thrive, others do.
We'd like to hear a little more about the hotels and the golf course and some of the park's hospitality offerings too.
Right. I think a reason why we've been so popular lately is, just since the pandemic, people realized that parks have a lot of value. There's a lot of value to being outdoors in a safe space, in a space with fresh air, with windows that open. So people started flocking to the park. And the other part of that is that we started opening up restaurants. Those had also not been thriving so well during the pandemic, but since then, we've seen several new restaurants open up in the Presidio. And again, those are tenants of ours. We're the landlord, and they own and manage their own restaurants. But we're super excited because it makes all visitors, gives them a lot of great dining options. So, for example, we have Colibri Mexican Bistro that opened up first in the park, and they serve delicious homemade drinks and an amazing array of seafood and fresh Mexican dishes. And then Delita is a Mediterranean restaurant that opened shortly after that. That has been really critically acclaimed. The chefs have been critically acclaimed. It's a very fine dining area, amazing offerings with Middle Eastern breads that look like pillows and delicious sauces and seafood and things like that. There's also a wonderful restaurant, Italian restaurant called Pacino Presidio. So that's delicious homemade Italian food. And we're just excited that there are more options for guests to have now. Everything from burgers at the bowling alley to a Cobb salad up at the golf club, to the fine dining, to grab and go at El Parco, and then our soon to come mess hall at the tunnel tops. Like you said, the golf course is a public golf course, so any visitors can come and book a tee time there. It's an 18-hole golf course, one of the oldest on the West Coast, so west of the Mississippi. So it's a fun thing to do, as well as a lot of other outdoor recreation that we have.
The Presidio must be doing something right, because in 2024, readers of Condé Nast Traveler named both the Inn at the Presidio and the Lodge at the Presidio among the top 10 properties in San Francisco.
Right. That was such a great surprise. And that was really the Reader's Choice Awards. So that means that we have some very, very loyal repeat visitors at the hotels, and we're very grateful to them. We hope that some of your viewers will become those loyal attendees of the hotels and the golf course and the restaurants.
Many visitors love the Presidio because of its great location, right in Golden Gate Park under that famous bridge. If people just want to come for the view, where can they do that?
Well, like we said before, the Presidio Tunnel Tops is the greatest place to come and view those iconic views. But there are many other locations in the Presidio. Some are more lively and occupied, like the Presidio Theater or the Presidio Bowling Alley. But then some of them, as you can see by the picture there, we have 300 acres of historic forest, and we have 25 miles of hiking trails and biking trails that will take you through the more wild parts of the Presidio. So if you're interested in nature hikes, you can even take a hike that goes along the Pacific Ocean. You can take one that goes through the historic forest. You can go through the National Cemetery, or you can stay with the more lively and recreational areas like the trampoline park or the batter's boxes, or just any number of those recreational partners.
We know that there are 8 monuments and memorials on Presidio grounds. Can you tell us about some of those?
Well, the Presidio is a very important part of American history and of military history. And some of the monuments are along the Pacific Ocean with amazing views of the Pacific Ocean. Some that come to mind right now are the World War II West Coast Memorial, and that was to all the West Coast mariners. There's one in the East as well, I think on Staten Island or somewhere like that. And we recently added a monument there to the Merchant Marines because we hadn't had that on the West Coast. There's a memorial called Immigrant Point, which honors all the immigrants who came through the Bay, because this was a big point of immigration from China through Angel Island, and then eventually to the mainland, to the Presidio. And that Immigrant Point honors that. There are so many other memorials. Indoors, there is a plaque to the ANZUS Treaty after World War II and to the Japan Peace Treaty after World War II. So if you want to discover it, there are many itineraries on our website, and it's easy to take a walk around the park and look at these monuments.
And San Francisco National Cemetery at the Presidio, isn't that the final resting place for something like 30,000 soldiers?
It is, and it's a beautiful, moving place that has near and dear to our hearts. They host commemorations there like Memorial Day and Veterans Day. And I believe it's closed to interments right now, but it is a very old historic place and beautiful place to rest.
And what is the significance of the Fort Point National Historic Site?
Fort Point is managed by the NPS. It was built between 1853 and 1861 by the U.S. Army engineers. So basically, it was just planned to protect the San Francisco Bay. So it was built at the height of the gold rush, and the idea was it would protect everybody from any sort of foreign attack that came through the Golden Gate. And the architects of the Golden Gate Bridge even adjusted their design of the Golden Gate Bridge at that end so that they could build a little scaffolding over the fort and wouldn't disturb the fort. So it's quite interesting, and people can come and visit it today on the weekends. It's open, and they can talk to friendly park rangers who know a lot about the history. And also it's very interesting to go at the top of the fort and look up, and it's an amazing, strange view of the Golden Gate Bridge from below.
And Lisa, isn't it true that the oldest building in the area is the Presidio Officers Club?
Yes, that's the oldest adobe wall that was built by those Spanish settlers in 1776. And then the Presidio Trust underwent a lot of restoration on that building and preserved that one wall and a lot of what was around it and built that into a museum. And so there are museum galleries that describe our history, and people can come visit on weekends and really get a lot of great history. And they can also enjoy the Colibri restaurant in that same building, and they can book their own private events there, or just enjoy those heritage galleries and the archaeology museum.
And what are some of the popular pastimes at the Presidio? We know hiking, biking, and camping are three of them. But what about water sports since you're right on the bay?
Yes, again, we see a lot of kite surfing and all that, but it is Northern California, so it's quite cold. But water sports for sure, fishing for sure. I just wanted to mention to everyone that one thing they can do here is to see 4 different sculptures by Andy Goldsworthy. He's an English sculptor who deals with outdoor elements, nature elements that are meant to define nature and also decay as nature would. And they're place-based art. And there are 4 of them here in the Presidio. It's the largest collection in North America.
Since you mentioned animals and wildlife, what about bird watching, and what other wildlife can people see?
Yes, definitely. The Presidio of San Francisco is on the Pacific Flyway. So that means a lot of migrating birds come through. And there are, it's a birding hotspot. It's definitely over 300 species of birds migrate through or stay here. So there's a lot of bird watching to be done. And art and history walks. And we also offer events to people, community events like stargazing and dance festivals and things like that in the summer. So please check the website at presidio.gov, because there you'll see an event calendar that's very rich with things to do. And then also those itineraries.
You know, I always connect Disney with Southern California, so I was surprised to see it here. You have a Walt Disney Family Museum.
Right. They're one of our biggest draws. They are the wonderful museum right on the main post, right next to the lodge. And it's a testimony to Walt and his family and his history. So that's why it's in the Presidio, because his daughter Diane wanted something that was more dedicated to him as an artist and a family man. And people can come and see his legacy there. And it's just a very interesting, wonderful place, very sophisticated, and it honors mostly the artwork of the illustrators there.
And is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to add, Lisa?
I think that's it. I think there's a lot to do here. I hope people will consider a visit to the Presidio when they come to San Francisco. And please check the website, because there's a lot of information there about what to do and how to stay and how to eat, and even how to guide yourself around the park. Kids and families enjoy it a lot.
Our guest today on Travel Itch has been Lisa Petri, Senior Manager of Public Relations for the Presidio Trust in San Francisco. Thank you for joining Travel Itch on our last telecast of the year.
Thanks, Dan. I hope everyone has good holidays.
Thank you. You too, Lisa. And viewers, now that it's baseball offseason, why not extend the excitement of 2025 with my latest book, The New Baseball Bible? Notes, nuggets, lists, and legends from our national pastime. Both a bathroom book and a coffee table book. It's an unorthodox illustrated history that is really everything you want to know about baseball, but we're afraid to ask. That's The New Baseball Bible, a great holiday gift, and buy one for yourself too. Find it on Amazon.com. And that's it for this edition and this season of Travel Itch Radio. This is your host and writer, Dan Schlossberg, saying thank you for your time this time. Until next time, we'll be back on January 8th, 2026, to talk Doo-Wop City, Wildwood, New Jersey, with Sheila Brown, owner of Summer Nights, a 50s B&B. So for now, happy holidays, and stay safe.